So my favorite thing I heard today was that Joe Biden is skipping his victory party in New Hampshire and flying straight to South Carolina.
Yeah.
So we're recording this episode of Backstage. I'm Scott Ott. This is Bill Whittle and Stephen Green, vice versa. And this is the day of the New Hampshire primary that we're recording this. And they announced that he's so eager to get on with this whole, it's a big country and we got to fight all the way. And this is a marathon and not a sprint, that he actually canceled his scheduled soiree that was supposed to be after the votes came in New Hampshire. He's going, he do not pass go, do not collect $200. He's going.
How many 78-year-olds who've had a couple of brain surgeries run marathons?
It's the old 23 Skidoo. Maybe he could replace No Malarkey on his bus with 23 Skidoo. That'd be an awesome update.
He's certainly in quite the pickle, isn't he?
That's yeah. And and Steve, until you pointed this out last week, it didn't make any sense to me. But now it's just like I've been thinking over and over. Well, duh. Like, why were we thinking that he was like the obvious party nominee? The guy has been a horrible performer as a candidate for president, and you don't. And
I never.
Go ahead.
He was appointed. He was not even appointed is the word I'm looking for. I'm looking more like what's the word with kings? You know, he was
the heir apparent.
Yeah, sure.
Anointed?
Anointed, yes, that's exactly right. Oh, he was anointed.
Well, okay, here's where we went wrong, I think. I'm not a registered Republican, but I vote Republican most of the time unless I've got a good libertarian I can go for in a safe race. And we know the history of the GOP, which is when you're up against somebody who's probably going to win, just nominate the old guy and let him have a shot.
It's his turn, yeah.
Yeah, it's his turn. Yeah. And Democrats don't do that. they just don't.
And it's, and he was senator from Delaware, where you can get elected if you just meet half the people in your subdivision. I mean, you just got to show up for the barbecue on 4th of July and you've got enough support.
Yeah, you tell the banks
he wins Delaware 42-29. Was that some kind of county thing? No, that's total voters.
That's actually because Delaware is a big corporate headquarters. Nobody actually lives there. They just have P.O. boxes there for corporate headquarters.
Did anybody see this? It's off topic, but you kind of mentioned you made me think of this, Bill, with your 42-29
How can you be off topic on this show?
Well, that's true. Did you see Katie Tur, the MSNBC host? Asking some political analyst that was on her show if gerrymandering was a problem, or telling him that gerrymandering is a problem with the Senate. and this guy had to very patiently explain to her that those are states.
I think that's not been a problem really since about the Northwest Ordinance in 1787. I think.
Okay, wait, hang on. Here's my impression of Katie Tur upon hearing what Scott just said about the Northwest Ordinance.
By the way, I know some of our members like to hear what we're reading, and the reason why Northwest Ordinance was fresh in my mind is because right now I'm listening to the audio version of David McCullough's book. I think it's called The Pioneers, and it's really about that settling of the Ohio Territory, basically the territory that was described in this Northwest Ordinance, and Manasseh Cutler's efforts to persuade Congress to make the land available and all that kind of stuff. And frankly, without that, they would have had a real hard time paying back Revolutionary War debt. So, but it's amazing to me how they got people flooding into this territory, which was, of course, at first described like a virtual Eden of joy. But then like people getting slaughtered by Indians, and, the first winter, they're practically dying of starvation and all this kind of stuff. And people were like, yeah, well, that beats living here in Massachusetts. I think I'll go there.
Yeah, well, one of the reasons I collect old maps and atlases is you don't just get to see how the world looked in the past. You get to see how people saw the world in the past, because these were their maps and their atlases. And when you say something like the Northwest Ordinance, and you realize that the Northwest they're talking about is places like Indiana and Michigan,
Ohio,
it really tells you how much this country has grown and how rapidly that happened.
So this is a story we're not going to use this week unless Bill wants to. Okay, and I'm throwing this. By the way, if you're,
I think I'm good.
Your first time.
I got what I need.
Okay. Well, if this is your first time here, this is not really a show. It's just a meeting, and we're talking about the shows we're going to do this week on Right Angle, and only members at BillWhittle.com can see this. And so if you're not one of those yet, just pony up. Okay. Right now, hit that button, the Become a Member link. So this was a story.
If you're not one of those, you can't see this.
Oh.
But when people come into my office and I'm watching Backstage, I turn it off unless they're members.
Well, if
including my 9-year-old.
Watching,
you got to pony up, buddy.
The people who aren't watching this won't be offended by what I just said then.
No, we should have a decoder ring.
So this was an AP story out of Iran in a town called Khomeini, where I think is the hometown of the Ayatollah Khomeini. And it's about a flag factory. So they have this flag factory in this town. It employs about 40 people, I think about 25 women. They make about $400 a month each, which apparently you can survive on in Iran, or partially anyway. And they manufacture all kinds of different banners and flags. But a big part of their business is manufacturing U.S. flags, United States American flags, and
for people to step on,
and Israeli flags, specifically for burning. Yes.
Can't throw a protest without them.
That's right. And they sell quite a lot of these, actually. They sell for like $2 a piece, and then you take them to a protest and burn them. They didn't say if they were infused with like charcoal lighter fluid or anything like that. But it's fascinating because the guy who actually owns the company basically says he hopes that someday people will buy these flags to give as gifts, but right now he's just meeting a demand that's in the market, and so that's what he can't control what people do with them. Meanwhile, his sister-in-law, who also works with him and sews these flags, says that she is driven by hatred, and every time she's making one, she is thinking about how much she hates President Trump and the United States, and she is rejoicing in the fact that somebody's going to burn this flag. But they apparently are turning a single-digit profit on an annual basis, and a vast part of their production is actually a product that is going to be intentionally burned in protest.
So they're throwing what little money away they have to burn a U.S. flag that really holds no meaning for me because it was made for this purpose. And gosh, they're dumb.
I think it should be an excellent and relatively achievable CIA coup to supply that factory, unbeknownst to them, with Nomex materials.
Yeah.
That would be just
that
awesome.
Would be
what does that mean?
They're making these flags out of Nomex, which, for those of you that don't know, is a non-flammable substance used in flight suits and so on.
Yeah.
And now you've got especially if it was like a really big event, and there's like 10,000 American flags out there, and they coat them with gasoline, and they got their little Bic lighters, and they just won't burn.
Yeah. Oh man, that Nomex stuff. I don't think you can burn it with napalm.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, that was it.
The Israel flags, it says, since Iran does not recognize Israel as a country, the factory actually adds "Death to Israel" written in Farsi on those flags.
In case you didn't get it.
Isn't capitalism beautiful?
Yep.
So anyway, this week, Bill Whittle has the extra special duty of hosting 2 episodes. And so we let him go first so that he can take any viable topics away from us. So Bill, what would you like to talk about this week on Right Angle?
Well, for my main show, I'd like to just basically go around and just take a general look at the post-impeachment scene, the post-impeachment,
That's good.
Iowa scene, and just how really remarkably different things look now than we thought they would look. If all of these votes are going to Bloomberg, then this is also along my I can't say I predicted this or that I saw this coming, because I frankly thought, I'm quite surprised to hear that Bloomberg is getting all of these votes. But basically, if Bloomberg is picking up all of these votes, Biden looks like he's done. So does Warren.
So now, what do you say when you say Bloomberg is picking up all of these votes? To what are you referring?
You were just telling me that Bloomberg was picking up all of these votes.
That was actually a Quinnipiac poll, because I think we did that before we came on the. Did we do that? Were we on the air when we said that?
No, we weren't.
Right now, I'm looking at Drudge. Drudge says that Bloomberg sweeps town's midnight vote as a write-in.
There's 5 people in
it's
Dixville Notch.
But stay with me on this. whatever the case may be, let's just assume that Bloomberg starts to surge. Biden's basically already folded. He's not even going to New Hampshire. It never happened. We talk a little bit about that too. It's like he was the media appointed torch carrier. And we all said nobody likes the guy until finally they actually went out and did some voting and found out nobody likes the guy. So he's gone. But if Bloomberg starts to gain significant numbers, then that's telling me that what I've been talking about, what we've been talking about for a long time is actually accelerating. That the Democratic Party is now being torn right down the middle, and they're either going to go with Bernie or the anti-Bernie. It's not even so much anybody who can beat Trump. It's like who can beat Bernie. All the sensible people. This is quite a reach, says a lot about our times. But the sensible Democrats are going to Bloomberg because they know that Bernie's just not only do they know he can't win, they also know they don't want to be a socialist party. And so Bloomberg is now looking like the only person who has any chance at all. Warren's tanked. Buttigieg is a lightweight. I don't think Buttigieg is going to really particularly run the distance on this. He's a good vice presidential possibility. But if Democrats are going to Bloomberg, it's a sign of absolute stark desperation, right?
Now, the Quinnipiac poll I was quoting was national black vote, the African-American vote nationwide. And at the end of, in late January, that was 52% Biden. And a poll taken a couple of days ago, it was 27% Biden. And Bloomberg had gone from 8% to 22% of the African-American vote. And Buttigieg had gone from 0% to 4%.
Okay, so let's just say that that's happening only in the black community. I don't believe that for a second. I think that's happening all across the party. But even if it just happens in the black community is the lever of Democratic politics. They have to get that 80% of the black vote in order to win. So if
90.
blacks are leaving, Biden for Bloomberg, the rest of the party's going to have to follow. I do not see. Don't get cocky, kid.
Yeah, I know. I
just don't see how they're going to get over these rocks. I don't see how, if it turns out that the two candidates for the Democratic nominee boil out to a former Republican billionaire versus an old white former Republican billionaire versus an old white socialist, then how on earth does one side, whoever wins, take the other side with them into the election? It's just not possible.
Yeah, there's no coalition there.
Yeah. Looking at a couple of things. The thinking on Biden was his popularity with black voters would make South Carolina, which is the fourth vote held in this season after Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, and then South Carolina. If his South Carolina firewall held, he was probably about 50% likely to get the nomination against all the other candidates. That's if it held. But if he's bleeding black voters like this, what does he do to hold that South Carolina firewall? Because it looks like he's going to go down in Nevada too. He's going to stream into South Carolina a 3-time loser. And honestly, I don't think I've seen a Democratic presidential candidate flame out this fast and this convincingly since Joe Biden ran in 2008.
Biden nearly spent $100,000 in New Hampshire. Almost.
That's another thing.
They're spending millions, and Biden spent $95,000 in New Hampshire.
When is Nevada?
Nevada is 11 days after South Carolina. It's on a Saturday, or after New Hampshire.
After New Hampshire.
Yeah,
but before South Carolina.
Yes. And that one's a caucus, so God only knows what'll happen, or if they can count it up. After it does happen.
There's an app for that.
There's another big tell. I wrote this up in a column yesterday for PJ. Biden, California is part of Super Tuesday. It's on March 3rd this year, so it's coming up really quick. And California has the most delegates. It's also the most expensive state to compete in because you can't retail politic in California. You just got to buy time on some of the most expensive airwaves in the world. And Biden was supposed to have a big California fundraiser on February 20th, I believe. And he's pushed that back to March 4th, the day after Super Tuesday and the California primary. And that signals to me that his campaign doesn't expect to be around by March 3rd.
And he's secretly sending word that they should not buy the hors d'oeuvres just yet.
Yeah.
And you're talking about that connect. Like the only thing that Biden really has going for him this time around that he didn't have last time is that implied connection with the intensely popular former president of the United States, at least among Democrats. And have you seen the Bloomberg commercials? The Bloomberg commercials are just pounding this connection between Mike Bloomberg and Barack Obama. And they have Obama back in 2013 or something like that. I forget when it was, but a young Obama praising Mike Bloomberg to the hilt as being a practical guy who's been working hard for 12 years and has found solutions and all that kind of stuff. And on the screen for about half the commercial, it says, Mike Bloomberg and Barack Obama.
Wow. You remember back in December, I did that segment on Mike Bloomberg's secret audio tape from the Aspen conference here in Colorado, where he was talking about just taking guns away from young black men and young Hispanic men. For whatever reason, probably because he's doing so much better in the polls, that story got a big play today on Town Hall. They've got the audio of it now. And this is getting pulled up just in time for South Carolina. I don't know if it's going to have any more staying power now than it did in December, but somebody's going to have to use that against him, I think. He's
talking about stop and frisk in positive ways and about throwing young people up against the wall who might have guns.
Things are proceeding exactly as I have foreseen.
Oh, it's Operation Chaos, except they're doing it to themselves this time, Bill. I love it.
So I'll do the general look around the post impeachment thing, and then I think for the members I'll talk about I did a couple of really fun speeches up in Idaho, and I basically said that the culture war is not over, but it's won, and we win. And one of the points I make is that if you look at the institutions, the power of the institutions 50 years ago, news, entertainment, universities, and just general politics, were they more powerful then or are they more powerful now? And in every case, in terms of weapons for the left, they're far less powerful now. They're rusting away. And one of them was entertainment. And so we have this very low-rated Academy Awards, and we have two actors who I like very much, Brad Pitt and Harrison Ford, both coming out with these anti-Trump statements. And I find I just don't care, and neither does anybody else either.
There was a headline about the death of celebrity, basically people looking at the Academy Awards, and it's like, video killed the radio star, but, YouTube killed the Hollywood star. And, it's just like we know too much about these people. Watching the Academy Awards and seeing the beautiful people come out once a year from their holes, does not have the power that it used to have.
No, and furthermore, nobody's watching movies and stuff anymore. Yeah, and it's become so. I mean, it's been so flagrant for so long. It's like, Harrison Ford, Brad Pitt. This would 2 years ago. That's disappointing. I was like, I don't care. Yeah, I don't care. I really don't.
And neither does the general public. Ratings are lowest in 20 years? They said.
Yeah. So this is my point, and I can use that to just kind of encapsulate the close I had at that speech, which is the culture war is won, but it's not over. It's going to like Midway was when we won the war in the Pacific, but it went on for another 3 years, and all the dying was still ahead. But I think I'll just go with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got that, and then Stephen Green. I'm actually writing them down this week, by the way. Normally, I forget to do this until the end.
Well, I'm glad, because somebody needs to remember this stuff, and I'm glad I'm not on the production end, because then it might have to be me, and clearly that's not going to happen.
By writing down the list of topics, I get an associate producer credit on this show.
Sweet. I never stick around for the credits. Is there a secret scene at the end of these?
There are a lot of things, and every show is filled with Easter eggs and then a blooper reel at the end.
Oh, I thought the blooper reel was the thing.
The show is actually the blooper reel.
Yeah. All right. So, I need a topic. I want to talk about not the horse race aspect of the Democratic field. I want to talk about it's sort of a three not sort of, it is a 3-part question for both of you, and then I'll take the same 3-part question for my wrap. Who do you think will win the nomination? Who do you want to win the nomination? And who do you not hope wins the Democratic nomination? I think that'll have a good chance to open up some back and forth and really sort of think about stuff beyond the personalities, because that's what it's been, because all of these people are just horrible and unlikable. But
you talk about the people on this show?
Oh, them too, sure. Yeah.
Oh,
sorry, I can't think of one of these people I like.
No, I mean,
you know, and that's a shame. Usually in a wide field, you can go, no, I don't agree with this guy or this gal politically, but if we were to sit down and have a cocktail or two, I bet we could hash some stuff out and make an evening out of it.
And if James Webb were the Democratic nominee, it wouldn't be the end of the world, you know, that kind of thing. It's like, now it's the end of the world is the best case scenario now.
Right. Oh, James Webb.
I like Tulsi Gabbard, but I can't even tell if she's still in it.
No, she's out. Nobody's.
Is she out? Did she pull out, or did she just?
I don't know if she's. I don't know if she's.
I don't think she's out officially yet.
But she's had zero.
Yeah. James Webb wrote one of my favorite, not quite a wartime novel, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's set in Japan right after World War II. It's the American occupation of Japan, and it is all about the political intrigue going on between the surviving Japanese power structure and the Americans coming in to rewrite everything. And I wish I could remember the name of this book. It was so well done. And I read the thing like 12, 13 years ago, but I will bet you it is the best piece of popular literature written by an American politician since maybe ever.
Okay.
And I'm gonna look this thing up.
Was it like Real Housewives of Kyoto or something like that?
No. Hang on. It's called...
What you got, Scotty?
The Emperor's General.
Okay.
Okay, so here's what I got. And this is actually a suggestion from one of our viewers. I should see if I can figure out which viewer it was or which member it was who recommended this. But apparently, according to architecturalrecord.com, there is a proposal floating around for a presidential executive order that would essentially mandate that federal buildings that cost more than $50 million be designed in the ancient Greek or ancient Roman style. Yeah.
It's an interesting topic.
Yeah, get away from the brutalist architecture for
yes,
once in the
which is the
post-war
first time
period.
I'd ever even seen that word outside of, like a Quentin Tarantino movie. I just didn't know what is brutalist architecture.
My mom, when I was probably 11 or 12 years old, turned me on to from Bauhaus to Your House, which is by
Wolf.
Thank you, Thomas Wolfe. And that was my first little look into the world of architecture and what it means.
How old
more
were
than
you
just
at this point?
11 or 12 years old, I think.
And your mother gave you this?
Yeah. We were on a plane back from a Christmas break vacation, and she'd finished reading it on the flight too, and she handed it to me on the flight home because I'd read all my books.
I got a Peanuts comic book.
That won't even get you through the jetway.
No, I'd read it more than once.
Yeah.
I got a junior engineer nuclear reactor kit.
I seriously read a lot of Peanuts comic books. And then I graduated to Mad Magazine. So
I just want to know where Bill's getting the plutonium.
These people, it's fascinating though, because there's this, first of all, let me acknowledge that there's no indication that President Trump has anything to do about this draft executive or with this draft executive order, or that he endorses it. And in fact, if you look at the design of some of the Trump buildings, they certainly aren't in the federal, ancient Greek style or But there are some people who really think that the architecture we use for federal buildings has deep meaning when it comes to the United States government, and
I agree.
that this brutalist and deconstructivist kind of architecture that's been prevalent in the modern era has done bad things for people's view
agree.
of government. And I just thought the whole thing was fascinating. And it all goes back to the idea is that it's time for an update and a rewrite of the guiding principles of federal architecture originally crafted by none other than Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan in 1962. And so anyway, there's a lot of fascinating aspects to this.
Sure.
And I can guarantee upwards of 36 views to this video when it hits YouTube.
Well, if the brutalists get a hold of it, then there'll be some traffic.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to create like a thumbnail image for this video that's completely unrelated to the topic.
Yeah,
And I'll do a clickbait headline.
Can you work
I'll just take the
furries
FBI
or
building.
bronies into it somehow?
Yes. How about dog-faced brony soldiers? Okay. So
Biden
that's
thinks
it.
that's cool too, you know? He thinks that's kind of a snappy phrase. You're a dog-faced pony
Well,
soldier.
apparently it's a John Wayne movie reference, but I'm not that up on my John Wayne
My
movie
point is,
quotes.
this is the candidate of the young.
the hip 1950s and 60s John Wayne movie references.
Because John Wayne was a guy who didn't have any malarkey. There's no malarkey
right.
on John Wayne.
Not from Marion Morrison, I'll tell you that.
No, see.
Well, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, you've wasted another perfectly good, what did we get into now? Oh, 26 minutes and 42 seconds so far. And we are glad that you've wasted it with us. If you'd like to waste even more time at a more leisurely pace, we would like you to join us on this cruise that we're going to do. And this is coming up in May 15th through the 18th, but you got to sign up for it well in advance because apparently they'd like to know if you're coming. Like it's not a walk-on thing. You don't just show up at the dock with a knapsack or something. And so you need to sign up right away at BillWhittle.com. And there's a gigantic ad there. There's a gigantic ad for it on Bill's Facebook page as well. If you click that, you can get all the details and you can actually get signed up for it. I actually this week finally officially gave them the information that they need to get me signed up for it. And I thought,
need that
well,
form.
yeah, that could be embarrassing if we do this cruise. That's supposed to be with the three of us. I was like, well, we were so busy making programs that we never got around to signing up for our own cruise.
And the ship
Being
that's
towed in a dinghy behind the.
the staterooms are filling up fast, but they still have plenty of hammocks left in steerage.
That's right. The right crowd and no crowding. So we'll be following the ship in a pontoon boat, and Bill will be waxing eloquent from the deck of the pontoon boat. So anyway, we're going to be doing like the shows. We'll be recording them right there on deck. On board, not necessarily on deck, I guess. And doing a lot of Q&A. We're going to, have dinner with you and just enjoy a great time of casual conversation, lots of laughter, and more importantly, really, even than meeting the people that you've always dreamed of meeting, and that would be mostly Steve and I. But you actually get a chance to mingle with Steve and me or Steve and I. I think of meeting Steve and
Me.
Me, sorry. Yeah, so you don't want to meet the grammar Nazi Bill Whittle. So you're going to get the chance to meet the other people. Like there are lots of other people out there who actually think like you do, and you get a chance to hang out with them and have a great time. It'll be nice to not to have to walk on eggshells as you discuss the things that are important to you, as well as the things that are just trivial and fun. And
I would like to just add briefly that, needless to say, Royal Caribbean does not have steerage on their luxury cruise ships, but I insisted on having them install one for this particular trip.
he actually had another deck added at the bottom.
At the bottom, yeah.
They
constructed-
leave
strung
some of the
hammocks up
cargo
between the
behind,
boilers.
throw some hammocks there, and get a guy in there with an old sea shanty.
It's going to be kind of just like Swiss Family Robinson. I think you're going to really have
only
with an
without the
open
Swiss,
bar.
the family, or the Robinson.
and you may have to defend yourself with coconuts. But we are going to have a great time on that, and Stephanie and I are looking forward to it. Steve and Melissa and Bill and Natasha as well, and
Yeah.
we hope you bring your loved ones along. By the way, I don't know if this has happened yet, but if you would like to come on this trip and you don't have a significant other, but you need like a roommate, I know there was at least one guy who was looking for a roommate, and maybe there are others out there who want to kind of share, because it's one of these things where it's based on double occupancy. So if you're looking for a dormie, let us know. Just send us a note with the contact link at billwhittle.com, and we'll hook you up with a travel agent, and we'll see if we can find a way to get you on that cruise and get to meet somebody new. In any case, ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of another great Backstage episode of Right Angle. We are going to get about recording this week's shows, and we are grateful to you for making that possible. So for Bill Whittle and Stephen Green, I'm Scott Ott. Thanks for watching.